What's up, guys? Spin Firearms here. Happy Glocktober. But as you know, every month of the year for me is Glocktober. But once again, it's just another reason to celebrate our Second Amendment rights that are God-given to us, should never be taken away, and just living in the best country in the world. Like, we always take it for granted, but we shouldn't, because there are a lot of people that can't simply do what I'm doing, and which is just talking about firearms, talking about my favorite hobby in my basement with legally purchased firearms that, once again, I will never do any harm or anything negative with. So it is what it is. But before we get started, hit the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe. Put anything into the comments. Help this video get into the algorithms. Now, for Glocktober, you normally wouldn't see Spin Firearms talking down on Glocks. But in this case, this is the one time I'm going to talk down on them a little bit, right? The Glock 28. Probably the most underwhelming Glock in the world. Now, the Glock 42, which is chambered in .380, has its purpose, which is pocket carry. Glock 43 has its purpose, which is pocket carry. The Glock 28 does have its purpose, which is a very, very low recoil Glock, right? It's small enough to conceal, has a very small grip and frame, one of the shortest firearms out there for capacity. But at the same time, you're getting a 3.5-inch barrel, so you'll have a decent velocity on a .380, but you're also paying for Glock reliability. And that's part of what has made this super underwhelming, is there's been major issues with the Glock 28 chambered in .380. Now, normally when you buy Glock, you're buying for reliability. You're not buying for the most innovative product. You're not buying it for the sights. You're not buying it, these because they have a rail on it, because they don't. You're buying for reliability and trustworthy, and the fact that when that firearm comes up, if you need it, it's going to go bang. And in this case, it just hasn't for a lot of people. And it just is what it is. Now, this firearm was actually released in 1995, right? Around the time the Glock 26 came out. And you're wondering, why hasn't it made it here until 30 years later, or whatever the case may be, 25 years later? It's because of the point system. Now, there's a point system in order to import these firearms to America. Now, these were all made in Austria, but now that there's factories in Smyrna, Georgia, they now had the ability to release it. And with releases like the Ruger Security 380 that have been so successful, that firearm has ran for people, such low recoil, so if you have arthritis, hand problems, had wrist surgery, you're getting a very low recoil firearm that is very shootable and reliable. But in this case, it hasn't been. And also, I just don't see the purpose, because here's the thing. What makes the Glock 26 so great, in my opinion, is that magazine compatibility. You're taking a super small subcompact that can fit 10 rounds, which is enough, but at the range, you can throw a 33-round mag in there. If you want, for carry, you can throw a 15-round mag in there. And they're all made by Glock. They're all OEM products, so they're all going to run flawlessly. In this case, Glock didn't even release its bigger brother, which would be like the 19 to the 26, the Glock 25. The Glock 25 would have at least given us 15-round capacity out of a .380 that is this small. But they didn't do that. They didn't even release the magazine to us. Now, I have a feeling the Glock 25 will be released soon, but until then, you're stuck with one magazine for your Glock 28. Now, a lot of base plates, I'm not sure if they run for 9mm the way they do for .380, because in my experience, they don't run the same. Therefore, your aftermarket support, which is once again another reason to buy Glock, is because you have unlimited aftermarket support. You can buy literally anything. For this, what you can get is like some grips, some different sights, and that's about it. You can't find aftermarket .380 barrels, and this firearm just isn't popular enough. The way they released it was sort of quiet, and once again, they didn't release it with bigger mags or anything like that, so they sort of gave you a firearm where you're sort of stuck with what you got. Now, there's nothing wrong with a stock Glock, but that's if it runs reliably, which once again, a lot of them haven't. I've actually made mine reliable by using a different guide rod, which I'll make another video on, but mine's ran flawlessly since, and actually it is such a smooth shooter. If you're looking for a firearm that you can literally unload this mag in 2 seconds, 10 rounds, 10+1 of .380, this is a firearm that'll do it for you. But you have to have a reliable one, because how can you unload a mag that's unreliable? You just can't. And so a firearm like this does have its place in the concealed carry market. I just feel like Glock didn't do it the right way. They should have upped their testing, because here's the thing. The only people this was available to, it was people overseas, basically, which isn't the civilian population. And where does a lot of the testing and stuff come from? The civilian population. How do a lot of these companies find out about the issues they have? The civilian population. We go to the range every weekend. We test these things. We go shooting in the woods. We test these things, and when we have an issue, we call these companies. Then they keep track of what the issues are. Now they know if they have to make a fix or a big announcement. I've still yet to hear an announcement from Glock about a fix for this. But where it's Canic for their Meta MC9, they're sending out free guide rods, which is amazing. That's how you should do this sort of thing. But for a firearm that's been out 25, 30 years, you should have had it down pat. You should have had this thing ready to go, reliable, as reliable as every other Glock I've owned, ready to go right out of the box. And they just didn't do that. So in my opinion, this is the one Glock that won't last. It won't, pass the test of time. It won't stay around because the number one reason we buy Glocks in the end is reliability. So it doesn't even pass the main test for a Glock. Therefore, in my opinion, Glock 28 is going to die down. If you want one, now is the time to buy it. I don't see them releasing further generations of the Glock 28. I think this was a one-time release. This is going to be for, collectors like me who want all the subcompacts made by Glock. This is for people, like I said, with arthritis and stuff like that, and wrist problems. Like I carried a 380 for a year after my double wrist surgery, just because I didn't want to mess up my wrist any further. And wanted something, if I had to defend myself, I could, fast, wouldn't hurt my wrist in the long term, and so on. So there is its place in concealed carry. I just don't see this thing lasting with all the other options in the world. I see the Glock 43 lasting. I see the Glock 42 lasting. I see the Glock 26 competing and lasting, especially because they just released the MOS version of the Glock 26. The Glock 28 is going to die down, simply never be talked about, and fade away into existence. Now, once again, I like the 28. I have nothing against it. Mine shoots so smooth, and now that I've got it shooting reliably, I have nothing against it. This thing is a beast of a firearm if you want to shoot fast with a Glock. Now, with that being said, once again, test your firearm. Make sure it's reliable. But the Glock 28 is going to fade away. Thanks for watching.